Well, hello everyone. You have right here talk about for Made in USA right here. Talk about for digital paper right here. And I know I have everybody else that says toward it, yeah, that when we talk about products made in USA, what exactly are we necessarily talking about? And I would probably say is toward it, yeah, what I'm talking about is actually gift wrapping paper. And like everybody else would say is toward it, yeah. Would you actually start out with a few examples, maybe such as maybe if it's a comb or a brush or something like that, or maybe even a shampoo or something like that, but any other products that you would think that would be made in USA. But you have right here, I talk about this right here, of showing right here is talk about for digital paper, and what exactly is a digital, what is an example right here, I talk about for digital paper right here. Digital paper is another way, if you want to call us, as to where, yeah, paper, right? But still, we're talking about the type of paper where, yeah, it's not the actual, you print it, it's not the actual paper, but it's a type of paper where you'll be able to view it like on an interface, right? And talk about for like a PDF file document or any other source of document that you could open up with. But still, talk about for digital paper right here. But you see right here, I'm talking about with ways of how to explain about a gift right here. So this right here was supposed to be, an example right here of talking about the gift of giving right here. So it's like each time I think about that in 102s to where I'll go and put on here, talking about, that, it's, yeah, for what reason? So whenever you do think about this right here in 102, that yeah, made in America, what does it have anything to do with made in America here? Well, I could just tell everybody that whenever you do think about that and want to know about, you talk about for okay right here. So every time you think about that, and you're warned where okay, how should you go ahead and word this into a sentence right here. A way to explain a gift is knowing that, that a gift, that gift, came by someone else, who remembered, who did remember very well about the tradition about giving. The first thing, I would always think about is that someone may already have that idea for what you have in mind, and that that is why it seems like that the best ways of start is to start by thinking about gift wrap, and that is okay to ask someone at need talk about for gift wrap right here. So it's like, yeah, so each time you do think about gift wise, and 102 is toward, yeah, surprise. And that when you do find something you have been waiting, which that can include a box of chocolates, yeah, chocolates right here. So it's like, yeah, so it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, and you always want to know too that, whenever it talks about gift wrap, whenever we do talk about gift wrap right here, I'll go ahead and yeah, and then from here, but it's like, so it's like, yeah, so if I were to actually paste it, that in right there, word and text right here, it kind of changes around a little bit, and your word to where that, yeah, number one, that when we talk about the gift of giving right here from Made in USA, and it's like, yeah, that each time you do think about that, and I can go ahead and put on here, I'm like, see here if I can go ahead and move this further down so that we could see that right there. But still, that I can go ahead and add in here, I'm like, yeah, the box of chocolates right here. But whenever you give whenever you give and give hope, whenever it comes to a situation, you are thinking also about what is at need. Then a logo design that can tell this someone that you do show you do show more support. So to me, it's like each time you think about that and your word toward it, yeah, if gift wrap is another way, I'm like another way to start, I'll just say situation right there. I'm like, yeah. But still, it's like, so each time you do think about that and you're warned toward it, whenever it comes to understanding about, the talk about the tradition, right? Tradition of giving, but then also knowing about it that, yeah, go ahead and see if I can go ahead and put that right there. Change that up just a little bit right there. Just kind of fill the whole page right there. See, do you want to use the Mark Corners? Yeah, I know it. Like everybody says to her, well, you want to go ahead and use something that's readable, right? Where people be able to read that, but still, it's like each time you do think about that and want to know that whenever it comes to understanding about Made in USA right here, you have right here's this infographic right here, and want to know that yeah, whenever we do talk about gift, and whenever we do talk about Made in the USA, and so the first thing that I would think about whenever I'm thinking about a design like this would more likely be is toward yeah, that Made in USA. Are we talking about maybe printing postcards or business cards or of any kind like that? To and from right here. So this is right here. If you see right here, an example right here, I'll talk about for to and from right here. And yeah, to and from. So if I were to be shopping for anything in particular, and let's just say if I was thinking about somebody, maybe one of my classmates or anybody, then what exactly is it? I'm like, yeah, do you have anything in mind that you would think that you would want to shop for? And I want to know too that you have right here the American flag right here, but it's like, yeah. So a lot of times it's like your 102 is to where that you look at like a little, post note right here and say is to where, if you were to think about made in America for any reason that you would think is toward, okay, yeah, you would go and start out with the gift tag. And so it's like, anybody who might even say that if you're going to maybe shopping around or going to a gift shop or somewhere like that, and 102 is toward it, to and from right here. But it's like, so it's like, but if you were to include something like special friend or something like that, and it's like, special friend, or special, or if you want to include say special partner or something like that. And I know, like everybody else would probably say too, if you're going to be buying anybody a gift, or maybe sending anybody a gift, they would include something like somebody would include a partner right here. I'm like, hey, how you doing, partner? And so every time you do think about that, and you want to know too, made in USA. And you would think about gift wrap a lot of times. And why do I think gift wrapped by chance? I'm like, gift wrap. And you're warned to where, okay, gift wrap. Then what about gift wrap that you want to use that for an example of made in the USA? And to me, though, it's like, so if you were to change that around just a little bit and want to know, I'm like, talk about for gift wrap right here. And you're like, okay, that with gift wrap, that you go ahead and just right there, adjust that right there, and like but anyway, I like but talk about for gift wrap right there. And but it's like, so every time you do think about gift wrap, though, that you're warned toward you actually whenever you do think about gift wrap, a lot of times that you would really want to think about is toward that are you necessarily telling this somebody that you like them, or that maybe you're willing to do something for them? And a lot of times that's usually what I would have to say. What I usually say too is toward, if you're trying to if you're going to go ahead and, like right here, to and from, and but like say, so if you were to include like a message like that, like everybody else may say, is to where that really, why do you think that this right here is supposed to be what you call any sort of mascot by chance? Like anybody says to where that mascot meaning is to where that I was wanting to do something for you, and so it's like, so it's like people might say, if you want to go ahead and maybe underline that or something, but still, it's like, so every time you do think about that, and 102 is toward it, that, oh, I know it's all, but anyway, to and from, you have right here the you made in the USA, digital paper right here, and then from right here. So it's like, so every time you think about that, and you're, somebody might even say that, if there's any names in particular, and let's just say that, Santana or something like that, or I can maybe, anybody might say if there's any particular names that you would want to go ahead and use just to show for an example, maybe Alyssa or something like for Alice or something like that, or I can maybe also quite a few names for sure that but still it's like you 102 is toward it if you're going to be shopping for somebody in particular, but if I were to be using this right here as example from my infographic right here, that it's like yeah, Natasha. Yeah, people might say you go ahead and yeah, not for for no, Natasha. So it's like yeah, so every time you do think about that, oh, I know it. Then think of one name like yeah, if it's not Natasha, or if you want to go ahead maybe use another name, but still, it's like to Ashley or something like that. Just use that to Ashley, and so yeah, I'm like people might say that. So if you're going to go ahead and write right here, yeah, go ahead and underline that right there. But you're warned to where that when we do talk about Made in USA right here, and 102 is that why do you think that you would start out with gift wrap? You go ahead and start out with gift wrap, and then you go ahead and tell somebody that yeah, another way of how you want to call us is to where are you trying to tell somebody that you like them, and another thing I want to point out right here too, of talking about what does it usually mean whenever somebody's sticking their tongue out at you? Whenever if they're getting ready to say something or something like that, like everybody says, toward it, yeah, that you go ahead and start a conversation with somebody, and then it's like yeah, you're gonna go ahead and like yeah, this right here is supposed to be an example of them sticking their tongue out at you, and a lot of times like yeah, everybody else might say that if you're going to be giving somebody a gift for any reason at all, that they're gonna maybe want to know too that yeah, that why do you think that you would want to include a picture of yourself on a greeting on any sort of gift badge, and with your tongue sticking out? I'm like, in case of anybody that may want to know too, that why do you think that anybody would want to include a gift badge like that right there, and just knowing as to where it with their tongue sticking out, and people might say as to where well really if that really supposed to represent maybe for happy, or that I'm glad to do it for you, something like that. So every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that yeah, that you might even want to know too that whenever you do receive a gift from somebody, that the first thing that you might see is something like this right here, to where you see right here is a picture of them with their tongue sticking out like that. And 102 is to where what exactly is it that they're trying to say to you whenever they do that. And it's like, well, really, that not really to be rude or anything, but it's just our way of showing appreciation. And it's like everybody says to where yeah, if you do talk to anybody, maybe even on chat or something like that, and 102 is to where that they're going to go ahead and send you a picture of them with their tongue sticking out, and 102 like yeah, I'm glad to do it for you or something like that. So it's like so every time you do think about gift wise, and it's like yeah, I'm glad to be able to do this for you, and so it's like yeah. So yeah, so if you were to include something like that right there, and if I just make that a little bit bigger so that way we can see that right there. But it's like yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad to be able to do this for you, and it's like yeah, so it's like yeah, I'm glad to be able to do this for you, okay, and so yeah, so anybody that might even want to know too that just to feel a little bit more confident with anything that you're going to be working on for sure, and 102 that just to be able to help calm somebody down, and 102 is to where yeah that you were going to start out this message right here, talk about for the gift of kindness and all that, and but it's like, yeah, so it's like, so every time you think about that, then you're warned to where that, first of all, it's like, you're warned to where that you were warned that what took so long for you to be able to tell me in the first place about, you had a gift for me, or you were going to tell me something earlier, or you were going to do something for me, why didn't you tell me any sooner? And, everybody might even say too that, really, what is the best result for that whenever it comes to understanding about, if it's relationships, or maybe if it is about, that, you were trying, like everybody else might say, is to where, whenever you're doing something, working on something, but still, it's like, so every time you do think about that, talk about for okay right here, and I'll go ahead and write on here on the side right here, talk about for okay, means is to where I'm like, that, whenever you do say okay, whenever you do to start talking to somebody, and if you say okay right here, and 102, that okay, that, you're able to start a conversation, right? Whenever you use okay right here. Whenever you do say okay right here, but it's like, almost every time you do think about that, and your 102 is toward, okay, that, it's another way of how to keep the situation calm right here. But it's like, it's okay, okay, you don't know where to start, or, you don't even know how to handle this, and, so a lot of times it's like, so every time you do think about that, talk about for Made in USA right here, digital paper right here. So every time you think about that, you want to know too that, you think about gift wrap every time you do think about that, or maybe if you think about a coffee, or maybe a hot, maybe something to snack on, maybe a pretzel or something like that, or maybe a donut or something like that. Or maybe if it is a hot pocket or something like that. But, I tell you one thing, though, that when we do talk about Made in America, that it's like, the first thing that really comes to your mind, for sure, is that to where that, that, you really want to know what examples that you can maybe give. And like people might say, is to where that, that, do you want to think of something that you can maybe think about that is produced here in America? And thinking about that is that, that, one thing that I can maybe think about is postcards, and also maybe the words in writing about what I think about the true tradition, about giving really means. And like everybody says, to where if you want to go ahead and read this message right here, it's like, a way, I'm like, so if I were to actually, highlight this right here, and then actually, like, place it with the other text right here as a way to explain, a gift is knowing that a gift came by somebody who else, but still, it's like as to where, as long as you ask, as long as you ask, that other person very nicely, for the gift. So it sure seems that way that, so every time you do think about that, and you want to know too, as long as you ask, right? You need to ask before somebody can give it to you or something like that. But it's like, so let's just say that if everybody else would say is to where that most of the time that, as long as you am like, if you want to go ahead and maybe put a comma right there. So it's like if you were to go ahead and put that into a sentence, right? As long as you ask that other person very nicely, for a gift. So it's almost like everybody say, yeah, it's like an offering, right? But it's so every time you think about that, and you want to know too that you really had to put any special characters into that sentence, such as, ask that other person, like what other person, who are you talking about necessarily? Ask that other person, comma, and then maybe an exclamation point, maybe after the person or something like that. So it sure seems that way that every time you do think about that, and you want to know too, is to where that yeah, that if there's supposed to be, if this supposed to right here is supposed to be a conversation, or maybe if it's supposed to be just one or two people talking at the same time or something like that. So it kind of gets you thinking as to where that you have maybe two or three people talking at the same time right here, but then it's like yeah, as long as you ask, yeah, go ahead and ask, and I can make that bigger right there. So if you ask, as long as you ask, so I can go and put right here, put that in big letters right there. As long as you ask that this other person right here, that they'll be willing to give it to you, as I'm like, yeah, they'll be willing to give you that gift by request, as long as so yeah, so it's like so it sure seems that way that every time you do think about that, but let's just say that maybe everybody says to where, well, really that when you do think about that a lot of times, is that it's all about the fact about that whenever you get whenever you actually get what you were looking for, whenever you get what you want, for sure that I'll go ahead and give a little bit, as long as I get whatever I want or something like that. But still, it's like so every time you do think about that, but it's like really though that what is the most common way of how teachers will maybe tell everybody about how to share and how to give? But a lot of times it's like your 102 is to where that the best way of how to call is like about for okay meetings right here is that okay, yeah, you want to go and start the conversation by it's like yeah, it's about the fact about okay, well you need to ask. So let's just say if I were to start a new sentence right here saying okay, you need to ask. So if I were to say something like that right there, with an exclamation point right there, and people might say is to word okay, I need to ask for what? You need to ask. Well, why do I have to ask? For one, I'm like, well, why do I need to ask? Well, you don't really need to, but let's just say that everybody might even say that if you're going to have a meeting talking about something, and for sure, if you're going to have a meeting talking about something, then somebody's going to say is to where, well, you need to ask for one, just because that, you go ahead and start a conversation with somebody, but then, they're not going to remember, that they might, they might even forget to talk about that, or whichever it could be, but still, it's like, so every time you do think about that, you get in these conversations with somebody, and let's just say that, the first thing that you're going to be talking about is that, well, I didn't get a gift for you, but, I went ahead and picked you up something or something like that. So every time you do think about that you might think about is toward, okay, yeah, that, one way of how you want to start this traditional thinking is known about from Made in America, right? You get in these conversations. Yeah, you get in these conversations about is toward, okay, yeah, I got something for you, but what did you get for me? And so yeah, it's like so almost every time, I'll tell everybody that you get in these conversations. I got something for you. Yeah, I got something for you. But yeah, what did you get? What did you get for me? So it's like, yeah, so, one way, like everybody else may even want to know too, that whenever you do start a conversation like that, whenever we talk about from Made in America right here, and you'll want to know too that it's supposed to be another way, if you want to call it, as to where products and resources produced here in the United States, to where that, yeah, companies and businesses, to be able to buy them and everything, but still, it's like, but really though, that whenever you think about that right there, for I got something for you, I got something for you, but what did you get from me? So it sure seems that way, that every time you do think about that, and you're warned toward it, yeah, that number one, that why do you think the conversation would start out with is toward, okay, you need to ask, or something like that, but still, tougher for gift wrap, right? So it's like, yeah, so whenever you do, yeah, why do you think that would be anything such as a marketing tip right here? So in case, if anybody were to say is to where that, okay, you need to ask. Why do you think that would maybe be a good example of a marketing tip right here? Everybody might say is to where that, is there any mobile app, or if there's anything, do companies have any sorts of shopping, I'm like, yeah, whenever it comes to, okay, you need to ask. Why do you think that would be anything for business related right there? The way that was worded right there in 102, okay, yeah, okay, you need to ask. So if you were to actually put that right there into maybe anything such as a logo or maybe gift wrap or something like that, people might say, yeah, you go and include an infographic just like that right there. The basic psychology, right? The basic psychology and knowing about, okay, you need to ask. And then if you were to include that right there, and you're 102 that, okay, whatever that's supposed to mean, ask what? Like, well, that means as to where, yeah, so if I were to actually do like a little advertisement, like a logo design right here, not everybody's really going to know what that means right there, but it's like, it seems like to me that, everybody might say is to where if you were to actually do this, do like an actual typographical logo design right here to where, okay, you need to ask. And it's like, okay, if you were to think about anything made here in America, you don't think that anything such as an argument or a discussion will be made here in America? Or do you think that, any sort of discussion like that will be produced as toward, okay, yeah, next time you remember to go ahead and maybe check to make sure that was ordered or something like that. So it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that there might be a number of reasons to why that somebody is going to go ahead and do a design graphic right here of somebody with their tongue sticking out just like that. And 102 that, okay, yeah, that, yeah, with their tongue sticking out just like that right there. And like, yeah, you got the image right there with the tongue sticking out just like that. And you're warned toward it, yeah, well, really, that somebody might say that, yeah, I really enjoy looking at something like that, actually, by the way, just knowing as to where that if you were to actually look at a photograph, something like that with somebody with their tongue sticking out, or just maybe just a little bit of facial special effects or something like that, but still, it's like every time you think about that, and you're warned to where that, for any source of communication, really, for any source of communication, and you're warned to where that, okay, yeah, that, so yeah, so every time you think about that, and you're warned to where that, I don't know, how many of us really dream about having these conversations and 102s to where that, yeah, you put on here on the top right here, next time this should teach you, or something like that. Yeah, next time, yeah, next time this should teach you. So if you were to include that, like anybody say, if you're going to have an infographic on something like that right there, and you're warned to where, yeah, next time this should teach you. And so it's like, every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that, this person is trying to teach you something, and 102 that, made in America. If you're going to be thinking about anything made in America for sure, that do you think that it should include anything about communication or something like that? But still, on the other hand, I'm like, what gets you to get that idea? But still, it's like, but every time you do think about that, I'm like, for sure, right? You go ahead and include right here as to where that, as long as you ask, very nicely, then that other person will listen, and that other person, I'm like, so it's like, so every time, almost all the time, maybe a letter is not going to be, if a letter is not going to be good enough for sure, it's going to be a photograph, and it's also going to be, something about, a picture, like to where a picture, picture yourself, in an actual room talking to somebody. And everybody might even say too that that's another reason why businesses do that. That they say is to where to picture yourself in a room, with a background with like an American flag talking to somebody. Picture yourself in the background. Talking to somebody. So it's like every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where, made in America. Made in America pretty much means is to where you're talking to somebody about how you should do businesses and how you should produce resources. And you're thinking as to where I think everybody else would maybe like to see the products for which you produced and the resources that you had to provide, right? And that's another reason why that made in America, that you go ahead and picture yourself talking to somebody and talking about the products and everything that you produce, right? And just knowing as to where that you go and include on there something's to where that to and from right here. Next time this should teach you. And also, okay, you need to ask. And so it's like every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that really, why should I have to ask? Why should I'm like, so it's like, so in case of anybody to ask me as to where that, do you know of any type of designed logo that's supposed to remind anybody to where that you need to ask for something? You wanted it almost every time. Every time every day that I worked on something, that it seems like that, you think that you've done everything. You thought that you can do, that you've done everything, and, I don't know if, I really don't know what else really to talk about, but still, you may even think too as to where that, when we talk about digital paper by right here, you may want to know too that, everything is all done for you. Yep, everything is done. I'm like, So whenever you do think about made in America, do you necessarily think about, all done for you? All done for you. So every time you do think about that, made in America, all done for you. I got something for you, but where do you have something for me? So every time you do think about that digital paper right here, so it's like, so every time you do think about made in America, right, are we necessarily going to be thinking about the things that are done for you? You're probably one or two that, based on my experience, I can tell you one thing, everybody. People find it real convenient whenever things are automatically done for you. So if that's the case, like everybody says, to where, it's all done for you. And I guess that's another way of how you want to call, another way of you want to say is to where, made in America because it's done for you. It's already done for you. It's made here in America. So that's why, like, yeah, everybody might say that. I really don't think that that's really the reason why that's why they do that. But still, it's like every time you do think about digital paper, that kind of gets your mind to thinking as to where, yeah, it's all done for you. You know, it's all done for you. All you have to do, like, yeah, all you have to do is ask. Yeah. So a lot of times it's like, yeah, if it's Amazon, Alexa, the Alexa or a tool or something like that, it seems like almost every time you think about that, that it's like, with this digital technology nowadays, it's like, okay, all you have to do is ask, and it's done for you. So every time you think about that, and you're 102, that's how a lot of these companies make the big bucks, for sure. It's like, yep, whenever you ask the questions, that's what's going to get done. And but still, but every time you think about that, and you're 102, that if you can't find, like, yeah, like everybody else might say, is to where that anything that you're trying to find that's produced here in America, for sure. And 102, that, yeah, you want to think about something that's done for you, that's automatically done for you, and but at the same time, that what does it say on the receipt? And but still, it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're 102, that yeah, okay, you need to ask. Digital paper, it's all done for you. But still, it's like, for any reason at all, that somebody's going to maybe say, is to where that whenever it comes to those situations that you are thinking, you are also thinking about, what does that need? Then there's a logo design that can tell you that that's somebody about showing you how this is done and all that. So, but it's like, yeah, so it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're 102, that especially to our senior citizens, that they're thinking as to where, okay, yeah, I don't really understand, how to do that, and so at the time, it's like, you're always 102, that when we do talk about made in America, that you 102 is toward, okay, yeah, you could probably maybe think of a few things that were made in America, but why do you think that you would maybe think about a letter? Is that letter, is that letter the America? I'm like, yeah, a letter right here. So it's like, yeah, a letter. And so every time you think about that, you're 102, okay, I really don't even know if everybody would even care to read the details on a letter, but like everybody says, to well, really, if it was printed, if it was produced here in America, what do you think that people would say? Or if anything, that you would print it, like type of, yeah, a letter like that, or something like that, but still. But every time you do think about that, want to know, I'm like, yeah, how about, yeah, create a layout? I'm like, yeah, something like that. But yeah, people might even say too that so if you put right there, talk about for a letter that is a letter or a note or something like that, a letter, and you want to use a letter, for example, or something like that, or what do you like? Yeah, or a note or some a letter, or maybe if it is maybe if it's a certification or something like that, certification, and so if I were to use that right there for an example right here, and 102, that certification right there. So if I were to put that in big letters right there, and people might say as to where that, I know what you're talking about, but there is really no purpose to why you need to do that. But like everybody else, they say is that, I understand now. You don't have to do all that, but so it's like, so every time you do think about that, and 102 is toward anything that you were talking about from earlier. Yeah, I get the idea. Made in America. Okay, I forgot about that, or, so it's like, so every time you do think about that, and your 102 is to where that, if you were to think about a logo design with an infographic with something like this right here, and 102, that the main reason why you were working on this was because the job was not done. And so one thing that you can do, like earlier, it's already starting to kind of remind me just a little bit of a circus or something like that, or a parade, but still, it's like every time you do think about that, and you're warned where the next time this should teach you, or something like that. About doing about jobs, and so it's like, the job is perfect for you. So every time you do think about that, then your 102 is that the job is perfect for you, and so it's like, so every time you think about that, then you're warned to where that anybody who's going to be reading that for sure, they're going to probably say that I don't know what that means. Well, what job? I go, well, the job that we were talking about from earlier. I think it would just be perfect for you. You had to be there just to be able to know what the details, right? You had to be there. You had to be there just to be able to know what they're talking about, right? Yeah, you really had to be there. So I could put that right here on the top right here. Yeah, you really had to be there just to be able to understand. And it's like a period or whichever, but you want to go and write that in a complete sentence and all that, but it's like everybody else may say that so every time you get to think about that, and you want to know that you really had to be there. I can go ahead and zoom in so that we can see that right there. Yeah, you really had to be there to be able to understand. The job is perfect for you. And they say, I can also maybe put this, this job is perfect, but, the next time this should teach you. So every time you think about that, then you're 102, you go ahead and include right here, like if you actually change that around just a little bit, right there, like the and this and all that, but still, it's like, so every time you think about that, and 102, anything that you were talking about from earlier, but it's like, anything that was described from earlier, they were not on the right here, on the right here. It was on this letter right here. This letter right here is supposed to talk about a few of the details, but some of the stuff that anything that's not on there for sure, anything that you like to add or something like that. So so every time somebody might say is toward almost every time you think about that you want to know too that why do you have to ask? Like, okay, well, you need to ask. Well, why do I have to ask? Well, because we may not remember it if you don't ask. And so every time you do think about that, and you're always want to know too that made in America. As long as you ask for sure, then you would get you would receive that gift or something like that. But still, it's like so ways of how we can tell about when we talk about produced here in America. And each time you do think about that, talk about for digital paper though, and you're warned to where you may not know the person very well, but at the same time, though, it's like really that they might tell you that I don't really know you very well, but I know your work very well. Yeah, the work that you do. The work that you do is very much appreciated. Yeah, the work that you do. So yeah, it's like so every time you think about that, and like people might even say too that yeah, I know your work very well, and it's much it's needed, it's much appreciated. So every time you do think about that, and you're like 102 that you get in these conversations a lot of times, and you want to know, I don't really know what else to say or what else to talk about, but it's like oh, believe me, until you get the experience, until you have some experience with what that's like, for sure, you'll know what to say. It's all about experience, right? But it's like, really, that each time you do think about that, okay, you need to ask. But, like everybody might say, is to where that, yeah, that, whenever you do think about an infographic, by the way, and people want to know too, is that, that right there, what's this, like, yeah, it's supposed to be right here, like it's to where that, yeah, an interview. That right there is supposed to be an interview right there, if you're actually talking to somebody. But it's like, yeah, so anybody might even ask me that, why isn't there a logo or an infographic produced that's known for Made in America? Okay, you need to ask. So really, anybody that might even ask me that is to where that, if there was any sort of logo design, something like this right here, to where, okay, you need to ask. So it's like, let's just say if you have right here, draw a picture right here of somebody with their tongue sticking out, along with somebody right there looking to their left right there, just kind of staring at the corner right there of the room right there. And you want to know too that, okay, yeah, if is there really a logo right here? Is there a logo that is known for, okay, you need to ask. Digital paper or something like that, okay, you need to ask. And a lot of times it's like, really, that, well, it's on the letter. It's on the letter right here. Go ahead and read that letter. The details are on my letter. And it's like, so yeah, so it's like, so every time you think about that, and everybody might say is to where, do you think that there should be, a website, or maybe an app design, or something like that, a logo design, knowing as to where, okay, you need to ask. And like everybody says to where, yeah, if you show that to your doctor, by the way, want to know what the doctor's going, maybe you want to know too, that, okay, what is that supposed to mean? Okay, you need to ask. Know the waiter, the waitress or the waiter, you tell the waiter that. Okay, yeah, you need to ask. Well, I actually, yeah, like everybody else would say, is to where that, if you were to actually be the host, I'm like, yeah, be the host. If you're going to be a host, that pretty much means that you make an offering, right? Like, yeah, everybody might say that, if you were the host, I can go and write the details right here, but, still, everybody might say that, yeah, it's an offering. Yeah, offering to give somebody something, anyways. Yeah, I'm offering to give it to you anyway, despite about if you ask. And it's like, yeah, everybody might say that, a lot of guests would prefer it that way too. That, if you're going to be talking to somebody for sure, that, be a good host. Okay, I should not have to ask. You offer to give me something, and so every time you do think about business or doing any sorts of service or jobs related, you maybe want to know too that why do you think that something like this would be a good way to start? But like everybody else might say, is to where that well, for sure that if companies are needing for you to do something like that right there, to where that well, that's your job, because we need you to do that. We need you to take care of that for our guests, and our customers. And so a lot of times it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that people might say is to where that whenever you first get the job, maybe not everything is going to be on that letter or on that job description, but like everybody else may say, that every time you have an interview with somebody, and you're warned to where that the things that you talked about, the things that you discussed, right? But you're warned to where that a lot of times it's like, made in America. But it's like, another thing that I want to talk about is talk about for third party, right? And everybody might say that what is a good example of a third party? And I can go ahead and mention right here on the bottom right here, third party. Third party means, third party. Third party means is that it's like, services, or a company. So it's like, so each time you do think about that, talk about for third party right here. And I know everybody may be one or two that, if you can talk a little bit about that, what is a good example of talk about for third party services right here? Like everybody say that, you may see that a lot of times. You may see a logo like that a lot of times. After you get done working on something, then you would see third party services provided to you using another service or company. And the service is just a little bit different than the actual standard or premium service or something like that. But still, it's like you got a third party right there. But still, but everybody else might say that talk about for offering you to give anyways to the host. And so talk about for you need to ask or something like that. So it's like so every time I think about that, people might say is that you need to ask. And so I'm like, well, really, ask what? But I'm like, so if anybody's going to be hiring me to do a logo design, I keep thinking that, it's going to maybe be something like that, to where, you need to ask or something like that, or tell your customers. Please tell your customers about the services that they can get, if you do, So if I would actually highlight that right there and want to know that something like that, put that in gold or something like that, people might say is that, So every time you think about that and want to know that, make it easier to read, but it comes to the situation where you are thinking, also about what is needed in a logo design. So it sure seems that way that, but it's like, so every time you think about that, then 102, that, you would think that it would take maybe 5 or 10 minutes to be able to type out a letter, but then it wind up being expanded, right? What I mean by expanded, to where that nobody has time to read all this. So let's just say that if it was a one-page letter right here about this is really all you have to read right here, and a 102 that really, who has time to read 15 pages of all that details about what you got to do, right? And what was going on, and so that's why it seems like everybody else might say that really, who has time to read all that? Well, what answer do I have to give? Well, number one, if you were really that curious to know, but then also you really have to be there to really to understand, right? But then also to put together a scenario, right, to where the situation is to where if I were to actually start typing and writing right here, and at 102 is like to show support, and also about experience. About experience right here, and I'm like, yeah, about experience. No, experience. Oh, I know it. Everybody that about experience. About experience, and put comma right here. About experience, knowing. Knowing your presence. So it sure seems that way that put double, put a space right there or something. But so yeah, that can tell somebody that you what you can do, what you can show your support, but about experience and knowing your presence, right? So it's like so every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that you go ahead and start writing and typing about something and start jibber jabbering about something. But for sure, it's like every time you think about that, and you're warned to where that you probably don't want to bother with all that. So really, what really keeps you motivated and keeps you going with the work that had to be done? For sure, but it's like really, I'll tell everybody too that one thing that really keeps me motivated about my writing skills is knowing as to where that really that you really got to study hard for your writing, right? So if you would actually look at this right here, and at 102 is to where just think about that, to where that you look at this right here and you think about that as to where anything that you want to add to this right here. You really just want to think about it as to where anybody else who could be reading this at some point, anybody who would like to know a little bit more about how this or that, and so that's one way I had to look at it, and also that if you're going to be doing this for business reasons, and think as toward okay, anything that you like to add, but you are also about experience about the logo, right? But it's like so the box of chocolates right here, and if I were to put on here that the ingredients. Yeah, the ingredients. I'm like, yeah, the ingredients right here, would include the peanut. And chocolate chip. So if I were to, so if I were to start talking about that, like everybody else may say that, you go ahead and start writing and typing right here, and do you think that maybe somebody is going to want to read it for sure if it becomes more interesting to your readers, right? And you might think as toward it, you start working on something, and for sure you really only want to work on it maybe for the first 5 or 10 minutes, right? You don't really want to spend any longer than that looking over all the every little detail about this, right? So that's why it seems like every time you do think about work, right, and you're 102, that how do you stand reading all that, especially if you don't understand what all that says right there? How can you stand reading all that? Really, what best answer really to give, though? And 102 is that really, you really need to know the work that you do. Just to be able to, like everybody say, that just to spend a lot more time with it, you really need to know the work that you do, and then the knowledge and the experience for what you have. And So that's why it seems like, everybody else might say that, it takes maybe 5 minutes, maybe for something. I'm like, yeah, like everybody say is to where that it may only take maybe 5 minutes just to make sure that everything is all correct, but then that designer or maybe that the editor is going to maybe take 3 hours just to be able to put it together. So it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, just like customer service work, yeah, not everybody wants to spend time filling out an application for sure. So it's like, yeah, for sure. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and just pay a professional just to be able to put it together. But still, it's like every time you think about that and want to know too that, yeah, it's all done for you. And I could probably, I can tell everybody here that yeah, that's really, what's called the best known for Made in America, that you can really explain about, is that, yeah, most of the time, when it's done for you, most of those products, of course, are made in America. But still, it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, and want to know too, is that, you remember having those conversations with that somebody, and they're thinking as to where that, yeah, well, for sure, that, I think you would know for sure if you had the job, for sure, knowing if they know your work very well, and knowing as to where, okay, yeah, okay, I get it, or yeah, okay, and so every time you think about that, and want to know too that whenever you say okay, does that mean that that person understands, or it's just another way of saying this to where it's another source of communication, or like everybody else might say, is to where it's acceptable, or for any reason at all, that it's okay to just to say this to where that I remember talking about that or something like that, but still. Talk about for okay digital paper, right? But still, talk about for Made in America. You really need to be there just to be able to understand. The job is perfect for you. The next time that should teach you. And so yeah, so every time you think about that, and you're always want to know too that yeah, I honestly don't know why it was that complicated there at the beginning, but then still, it's like you were able to explain a lot of all that, and that's why it seems like yeah. Do you think that it would really help to go ahead and include a little logo diagram, something like this right here? Maybe something a little bit, yeah. A picture right there. Okay, you need to ask. But other than that, Made in America. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.